Let's pray. Lord and Father, thank you. We bless your name for this morning. Thank you for your presence, for being with us. Thank you for being here in joyful times and in painful times. You accompany us, you're with us. Accompany us, please, now too. Be with Lynn as she's speaking, sharing the things that are upon her heart. Bless her for your name's sake. Please work in our hearts. In Yeshua's name. Amen. Good morning. Thank you for coming. Her grandson. From everything I have learned, my best title is being Shachar's mom, Tony's sister, Asaf's wife. I don't have that many titles, she says. What happened to us on 7th October is that the whole country went through trauma, and we're in trauma. And the problem with this trauma, compared to other traumatic things we go through, they have a beginning, a middle, and end, and so now there's no end yet. Therefore, we need, instead of peeling out things and taking them out, we need to tighten up our armor or our protections. One of the things I'd like to have you do first, you have points of weakness and strong points, strengths. Each one has. And these points didn't change because of what happened, but they are a bit lost. We kind of forgot them a bit. So one of the things I'd like each one choose which weak point, choose a weak point you have, a weakness that disturbs you to handle things daily. Think about it. Examples maybe will help. Fear of going to public place, afraid to go into fears, into a car. I don't want to get out of bed. Listening all the time to all messages and sirens, alerts and all that. So these things may be weak points or other things. מה? סליחה, מה? מה? דיכאון. Depression, for example. And now think, please, about 3 things that intensify this fear. For example, if I'm afraid of the situation and I watch TV all the time, it makes it worse, right? So think about 3 times. Slow motion. She'll try, Lynn says, to speak slower. So 3 things that intensify fear and make it worse. You have it? You can write it down. And now 3 things, practical things that you can do in order not to intensify the fear, like turning off television, for example. So not to let the fear grow, become worse. You have it? Now please think for a moment about your strong point. We each have few strong points which didn't change. They're still there even after 7th October. Think about your strong point. You have it? It could be relationships with people, supporting people, sports. You have it? Think now about 3 things that intensify, strengthen your strong point. Let's say praise songs, reading the Bible, praying. It could be sports, exercise, watching movies. 3 things that strengthen your strong points. And 3 practical things you can do in order to actually strengthen your strong point. It's something that I wouldn't do before the 7th October, but it's a bit helpful. So take it into consideration. This advice and this points, it's something that Lynn wasn't usually doing before the 7th. So now she wants to begin, actually. Why do we need to learn about loss and grief? Because except for Elijah and Enoch, all living people died. So why we need to learn about it if it's something that happens all the time? Well, it's needed because it's a taboo. Forbidden to speak about it. Death, we don't say actually he died, we say deceased, went to be with the Lord. And we use nicer words because we don't use the actual words because it means it's like almost calling it to happen. And people sometimes speak about death whispering because it's as if it will come if they speak about it, but it comes even if you speak or don't speak about it. To speak about it doesn't call it to come, because I've been speaking about death for 40 years and I'm still alive. But because we don't talk about death, we also don't speak about grief and mourning. And we don't know what it is until it comes. We encounter it. And then it's so powerful and so different than what we imagined, we thought, that we think we went crazy. We don't understand it's grieving because it's not spoken about. So we'll start speaking about it so you can help yourselves and help others. In order to begin to speak about this theme, we need to speak about fears of death. Because we don't speak about death and grief, we also think that everybody else are thinking the same like me. It's as if you'll be listening to only one channel on TV, you'll think that everybody thinks the same, like what you hear there. So we might think that everybody is afraid of same thing that we do, but there are many different fears of death, and everybody is afraid of death. Also, people with faith, everybody is afraid of death. Often, when I give this lecture, as a Israeli who gets up and says, I don't understand. I don't understand what she said, sorry. I'm afraid of what the death takes from us. So in order to know what our fear is, we need to identify and recognize what our fear is exactly. Its importance is so not to take it for granted that he is afraid of the same thing I am. I need to first identify my own death, fear from death, and then I can put it aside and look at the person sitting in front of me and realize he might be fearing a different. Let's do an exercise. Put your 2 feet on the floor. Sit back in your chair. Lean back. Put down your pen. Breathe deep. Shut your eyes. No one speak except for the translators. Breathe deep. Inhale and then exhale. Inhale. Exhale. With every breath, brings into your body health, joy, purity, and every exhale brings out illness, junk, dirt, and worries. Continue breathing deep. Slowly, slowly, you find yourself in a green garden, lying down on a blanket. Weather is nice. Light breeze caressing your cheek. You hear the sounds in the garden, the birds chirping with leaves, and you feel good in this garden. In this garden, nothing can harm you, physically, nor mentally, nor emotionally, nor spiritually. Nothing can harm you there. It's a safe place. In this garden, you don't have any responsibility over anything, not over job or home, family, kila. No one, no responsibility, nothing can harm you there. You realize that there's somebody coming from far away with the good news. He's coming near, and there he is. He reached you and told you that because you chose to give in your life, he also came to give you gifts. And he says that each person needs to die, but you are allowed to choose when. But you need to choose now. Choose now the age, the number, the age when you want to die. So choose now. He says to you that you're allowed also to choose from what you die, and it's needed to be chosen now. Choose now from what you'd like to die. And he said to you, now you're also allowed to choose where you die. choose it now. Where would you like to die? And he says you also have the option to choose who would be next to you in your death moment, and choose it now. Who would you like to have next to you in the moment of your death? And he said to you, you're even allowed to choose how those who love you would respond at the moment they hear about your death. And that's needed to choose now. So choose now how you'd like those who love you, how would they respond when they hear about your death. He said to you also that you're allowed to decide what to do with your body after your death. So choose now. What would you like them to do? What should be done with your body after your death? And he said that the last thing you're allowed to choose is how to be remembered. And you need to choose it now. How would you like people to remember you after you die? Breathe deep. Exhale, inhale, exhale. Breathe in, and you're back from the green garden to the Kela place. And open your eyes, those who are still awake. What age did you want to die? 120, she said. 88. 90, 100, 999, 95. $103. From what? She said old age, and Lynn says that you don't die from old age. So it means you mean that all your body systems stop working? Well, you're talking about kiss death. I don't know if you have this expression in English. It's death in your sleep. The heart stopping functioning, like cardiac arrest. In a good environment, and Lynn says that's not the reason, the death reason. It's not written in any certificate, death certificate. Maybe it can be written on your gravestone. Does somebody want to drown or road accident? Not a severe illness, she said. An easy or light illness. A flu, no pain. So we want to know what yes, not no. Let's say a soldier comes here and I ask you, not not a soldier, an animal. So don't tell me what this animal is not. Tell me what it is. Don't tell me it's not a dog or not a sheep, but what it is. So tell me from what, not what not. Where? In the air, he says. At home? In nature? In your bed? In that garden? Hospital? Really? Hospital? Jerusalem? With the family around. Garden. In Israel. Who? What's the next question? Who would you like to have next to you? Your family? Family? Grandchildren? Great grandchildren? Dogs? Other warriors, or I don't know what he means, soldiers? Anybody wants a doctor and a nurse to be next to them? A religious person, a minister, or whatever you call it? What or how do you want? A question I didn't ask. Do you want a precaution notice or sudden? Without, without notice, pre-notice. Now note, those who want in bed with the family without pre-notice need to go to sleep with the family around them. How do you want those who love you respond the moment they hear you died? Sad and relief. Missing them, and Lynn said already. Crying, like tears. Of joy. Great, she died. That he will die right the moment after I die. And Lynn said, who? And she says, my husband. It's not a response. Oh, death. Okay, it's a response. Lynn says, I never heard it before as a response. With peace. They'll feel peaceful about it. Acceptance. Will fill in, they'll see you later. appreciation, and she said that's what you want her to feel the moment you left her with all 5 kids. Relief. Okay, spelling that it's appreciation. What to do with the body? What to do with the body? In the soil, with a coffin, without? Regular burial? Uh, Cremation? There's a company called Alei Shalechet in Israel, and their building was burnt already. Yeah, it's done in Israel too. In the soil, not in the that wall with the, Ashley says, with the holes, with the coffin. Donate to give parts of your body for donation for transplant, or give your whole body for science. What do you mean? So parts, members of your body that can be transplanted in people and help them. What else to in the sea? I say I don't mind. Let the family decide. How do you want to be remembered? With steaks and beers, somebody said. Or steaks and beers, I don't know what he meant. Love, peace. Personal example. Look at these young people, they're giving good. Somebody who set a good example. Humor. Remember the person with fun, with songs. And smile. Oh, to remember their smile, or our smile, after we died. Do you remember the purpose of this exercise? Recognizing fears. Let's see the fears. There's a fear not to have enough time, so you want to die at this age. Fear of old age. Fear of dying in a strange place, and to die in a familiar place. You can see that not everybody is afraid of the same thing. You need to remember that on top of your fears. There's a fear to die alone. Nobody said alone. Sometimes people say they want to die alone, but here the answers were not alone. There's a fear of long dying, fear of pain, just to die shortly without suffering much. If you have a very light illness, you can take long time. There's a fear of saying goodbye, and also of dying without saying goodbye. And about burial, what to do with the body, we usually either go with a culture or against our culture. And that's the rebellion of the young. Is a short story. Asaf, my dear patient husband, many years ago, we had breakfast on Shabbat, and then I asked him, well, if you'll die first, what do you want me to do with your body? And he said, on Shabbat and breakfast? Okay, if you don't care, don't mind, I'll do what I think. And he said, no, no, no. In the kibbutz, with this music and these words. And he said, also excited, and you and the children come every Friday to put flowers on my grave. So I was sorry, I regretted asking. I said, okay, let's see. We'll see. And he said, and what if you die first? What to do with your body? Now in my family, everybody donated, gave the bodies to science. And in America, you don't receive it back. Here, you receive it back a year later, and you still need to know what to do. So in America, we don't have graves except for the great grandparents. So a grave, it's nothing for me. So I said, do what you wish, like you said. And what did he say? It will be in the kibbutz with this and these words and this music. And then he was so excited and said, and I will come every Friday and put flowers on your grave. And I said, I prefer the flowers now, and I haven't received them yet. So what are the two categories left? How people respond when I die, it's a moment, and how am I remembered? Nobody said, no one said, I don't mind. Why? Because it does matter. These words, these things belong to meaning, significance. We can't be good without meaning or significance. It's very important. I can tell you, when I'm working with somebody who is ill, I didn't say, I work in this area for 40 years, and I teach in hospitals, in wards with the workers where there's much death, and in other frameworks. And I counsel people who are dying. Maybe you and your family member are ill, or somebody dies suddenly, and after the sudden death, the family comes to counseling. When somebody comes to me terminally ill, I always ask, why do you have this illness? It sounds bad, but I ask because everybody knows why they have reasons for the illness, and I want to give them the option to speak about it. Also, after sudden death, I say, why did he die in a road accident? Why do I ask? Because there are answers. Two answers for each. If it's an illness, the first is from the internet, and the second answer, they begin to say, I know it sounds stupid, but, and that's usually, לין, קצת יותר לאט אפשר בבקשה? קצת יותר לאט? Too fast. I had someone, an oncologist doctor, because she had breast cancer. She came to me. I asked her, why do you have this cancer? And she said, my mom had, my aunt had, I probably have the genes, the ganim. So now it's my turn. And I said, genetics 20-30%. Why you, why now? So I don't I don't know what she said. She said, it sounds stupid, but I heard once that if you're pregnant and you raise your hands too often, it may happen. And this was an oncologist doctor. Does it sound silly? No, because we don't have a clue why this person is sick or not that. And as long as I don't know, I don't judge anyone with any answer. So you need to take into account that the first time that the person you're speaking with feel you don't believe him, it's the last time he comes. I don't want to know the whereabouts of this person, where they are. We're looking for the meaning, and if there's no obvious meaning, we build it up. Trying to remember where she was. We're looking for meaning. She wrote it down. Hannah wrote it down, so. Someone came to me after her sister was killed in a road accident. And the road accident seemingly has no meaning. But what did she do? She fought against the local authorities to put a traffic light there, so she could say that because of following my sister's death, no one else would be killed there. In Israel, there are so many plaques. Every garden, every building, you have plaques of people that it's named after, and it gives them significance and meaning for their death. So what we're doing here is a communication workout, not operation. I'm telling you how to communicate, to speak with people, to be in touch with people, communicate, and how to see you in light of difficult situations. Most cases that come to me are about death. Not always. There's loss that is not death. Losing a breast, losing your leg, your hand, arm. Sometimes even people come to me after divorce. No one died, but they all want to kill each other. But most cases that are sent to me by doctors and nurses are cases that they feel they can't deal with. Usually children who are dying and things like that. So what about communication? In every communication, there's stage for one only. It means that when I speak, I'm not listening. When I'm listening, what does it mean? I'm not speaking. So what people in loss and grieving over loss need most is a stage, to have a stage. They're not given the stage. Even if we go to the formal ceremonies of Evel, like Shiva or month or these customs, even there, what is being spoken about there? What do we hear people? People who come to visit speak about their own dead ones, and it's not the way it should be. Or they come to the Shiva or to comfort with a verse. It sounds good, maybe for believers, but it's not good usually. Doesn't help. They come with a sentence, may you not know more grief. And there's only one way, is to die first, early, and then. Or sentences that are meaningless actually. If you don't have something to say, don't open your mouth. I remember that people who came to us when we were in grieving, they said, God didn't want it to happen. Well, really? Who is your God? If he wouldn't want it to happen, it wouldn't have happened. Or God takes only the good ones. It's terrible. As if he's a monster taking the best and leaving us with the bad ones. And it means we are the junk too, because we are left. He didn't take us. So instead, don't open the mouth if you don't have what to say. So what? Yes. Come to one of the main mourners. Put your hand on the shoulder or hug. And sit down next to one of them, and you give them a stage. How do you give them the stage? Open a question that is open question. That, are you feeling better today? And then they say yes or no. But an open question that the answer is not yes or no. And another way, not question, is taken. No, I don't know what she's saying there. To be quiet. Israelis are not good at being quiet. Russians are better in keeping silent compared to Israelis. But these are the two ways. I don't know any other way. And, take into consideration that if I decide to keep quiet, to be silent, and give the stage, or to ask a question and give the stage, I want to give the stage generously. I let him do what he wants with the stage. Meaning, to scream, to cry, to speak, or to be silent. There's a problem with being silent, because how do I know if the stage is occupied or not if he is silent? Can you come, please? Look at her face. So move if you don't see her face. Look at her face. Shalom. What's your name? Why did you come here? I heard good things about you. Did you see what happened? Now look again. Where do you live? In Tel Aviv. Do you have a family? Yes, a husband. How did you choose him? Did you see what happened? I use it to show what happens with the body language. You need to look at the body language, her eyes. If I ask a question with a obvious answer, they continue to look in my eyes. But if I ask a question that she needs to search for the answer, the eyes travel. If I don't have the eyes, it means the stage is occupied, and I don't speak. when I don't have their eyes, the eyes of the person in front of me. When the eyes are back, usually they're back with the answer. I asked her about her husband. Her thoughts went to her private library. There are at least 5 correct answers to this question, and she went to choose what answer do you want to bring to this meeting. Always you go to the library, the person goes to the library when the eyes are kind of far, and then they're back. So, and then she came with the answer. The husband chose me. It's a great answer. And the eyes are back, and she gave the answer because she's in a regular situation. But if you're in fear, pain, worries about your health, or the eyes come back and they don't speak, they wait for another invitation to have the stage. I usually, after the silent, I ask, where were you now? You can say whatever you want to bring the stage back to the person. It's important to give the stage. And people are not given the stage because it's hard for us to see pain. Now I want to speak with you about body language and communication. 100% communication. I divide it into verbal and body. ורבלי וגוף. $80 and $20, 50-50, 90 body. Well, it depends upon the research, but the body language is between 80 to 93% from the whole communication. So we have between 7 and 20% for the verbal. Well, you can't explain how to reach Haifa with the body language. You need to use words. But even with words, speaking, when you speak, there's body language. My voice, for example, is the words are the verbal, but the voice tones are the body language. I can take the sentence, I love you, and my body language will say what I mean. With the tones, I can say, I love you. I can say, I love you. Same words, but the body language, the intonation, give the meaning. So I want to make sure the body language is the same. Eye contact is adjusted. Okay, eye contact. When I look at you, I always stand in my lectures because I love control, being in control. So when my eyes are higher above yours, I have control. It's good news for tall people. That how high the eyes is control, and also distance. If you feel the distance, this feels like a threat, right? You know me yourself. Usually it feels like a threat if I'm standing like that. When we come to visit someone in hospital, where do we stand and where are their eyes, the person we're visiting? It means we need to sit down and feel the difference. I'm standing up, I'm taking control. Now I'm dividing up the control. I'm taking. I'm sharing the control. I'm taking the control. If I want to give control, I need to make sure that my eye level is lower than yours. And that's how people used to ask grace and the favor from rulers. So it's important how high the level of the eyes. But eyes generally are important. I'm not speaking about blind people, but people who can see my eyes. When you see my eyes, you know that you exist for me. If I'd be speaking to you this way, you'd feel you don't exist for me. And it would, if I come to someone, to workers in the hospital, and I say, well, how are you today, looking down at my papers? I'm not interested, right? So what happens when a disaster comes on a home? No one looks them straight in the eye because they don't know what to do. Why they don't look straight in the eyes? Because you don't speak about death, or you don't speak, you're embarrassed, so you look down. If my look at them, at you, gives you the message that you exist for me, and if I don't look at you, communicates that you don't exist for me, and suddenly no one is looking straight in your eyes, what is the message there? It's a social death before the physical death, because it does not need to be this way. It's done all the time. It shouldn't be this way. You can look, you don't need to stick them to the wall with your stare, but need to look all the time. Otherwise, we miss out 80% or 93% of the communication. It's a shame. So look at people's eyes, look at people. When you sit in with someone, there was a stage when we understood that we can't put a barrier between us and the person we're talking with. So we removed the barrier, but the body language there's no neutral. You either promote communication or block it. What's your name? Hannah? That's easy. She can remember it. Hannah is here, sitting in front of me. This body language, does it block or promote communication? Shelach? Lynn, Shelach? Does this body language of two of them promote or block? It doesn't. Why not? In Hebrew is the best expression for sitting. I'm sitting in front of her, but in Hebrew it's against her. Because if she wants to run away from me, she has no way. If I speak with my hand about the problem, it kind of communicates that she's the problem, and I'm sitting in front of her. In Hebrew it's against her. How does this feel? Feel safer. There's a way out for her, there's a way out for me, and sometimes we need to escape, to run away. If I'm speaking about her problem, it's not speaking about her as the problem, and shoulder to shoulder we're siding, we're the same side. This is the reason why you always want to sit in a L. If you're fighting with somebody, you'll see they'll move their chair in front of you, and then you move also. But don't allow it to sit in front of someone who's angry with you. So okay. What about touch? I already see no. Are we supposed to touch the person or not? And how will we know are we supposed to touch the person or not? By the body language. Speaking generally, it's in the body language. What are we supposed to do? If she's sitting here, you can see by her body language that she doesn't want to be touched. She's sitting already. The way she's sitting, there's a fist ready for me. Body language does not lie. She doesn't want touch. But let's say that I want to check if she wants or not. What do? I don't touch to see if she wants it or not. I move a little bit, and she already is moving away. I see she doesn't want. And for this, I need to look all the time. If it's okay for her, and she says, "Don't worry, I won't touch you." If it's okay for her, if I go like this a little bit, she'll do it also towards me, and I'll know it's okay. And if it's okay, where do I touch? Never not in the foot, in the leg. There are sexual nuances to this, to that. So shoulder is okay, and generally speaking, the bone parts are safer than the soft parts. Meaning, in the elevator we can stand this way and not this way. What else you don't do? Okay, so if bony, okay, shoulder is okay, or your hand, but not if it's near your balls, the men. In other place, okay, use your brain. What you said earlier, you ask, and the eyes wandered in the back, and you ask, where were you? לא שומעים את השאלה, חבר'ה. I hope she repeats the question. I couldn't hear half of it. You asked, where were your thoughts? You don't need to ask like I did, but you can give them back the stage by asking the question that you asked before. If I'm close, people are thirsty to have the stage. They don't receive it. They are prepared to receive it if they're given even a little bit. רגע. Lynn, can you repeat? Lynn, can you repeat the question, please? Because I don't hear it. If I ask, how did it happen or what happened? Is it really given the stage? Well, it depends upon the body language. Hannah is still afraid of me, so I'll demonstrate something without Hannah. There's a thread, let's say, between my skull to the tip of my head to the ceiling. This is 0 angle, -1. Or what is the difference between 0 and between -1? I'm more far away. And between 0 and -2, it's for coffee shop, not for conversations. 0. What about +1? Just a little bit. And what feeling does it create? I'm interested. This is a language body of empathy. What's the problem with this body language? The back. So what do? You either support with your hand on the thigh or a chair with handles, but in conversations and counseling, we want to be in +1. What is +2? Threatening, confrontation. I use it sometimes. I give homework to people who come to counseling, and then they say, I didn't do homework. I said, why didn't you do? Why didn't you do homework? How do I know that when I'm in confrontation? Each time when there's part of my body, except for my palm of my foot. עוד פעם? Each time there's part of the body that crosses over the line of my body, except for my foot, that passes over the knee, I'm in your area, meaning it's confrontation. In standing, it's different rules, but this is about sitting. So I want to use it not much at all. I can give you an example. There was time when I was counseling two people. They both were early 50s, both were men, and both had advanced cancer, and their wives invited me, not them. So I came to one of them house. The person sitting next to you is communicating to you how to communicate with them. We don't need to come with pride and say, that's how I communicate. You need to be like chameleons and to adjust to them. So I came to the first house, I knocked on the door. I was invited in. In the past, I went to people's homes. I knocked the door. Come in. So I come in, and the advancement, when you visit a home, there are many hints that you can see that are helpful in the home. What do I see in the home? I see a sick person clearly in one of the armchairs. I see next to him, strangely, not on a stool, his wife. That was strange. And he starts screaming at me. I don't know him. I look at right and left. Is he shouting at somebody else? No, he's shouting at me. And then she says, relax, relax, it will be okay. He's not noticing her at all, so I know what's not working. And he says to me, I said, are you speaking to me? And I said, what did you say? You must help me. And I'm still standing by the door. What do I have to help you with? And he said, don't you see? I am very sick. Don't you see? You must help me finish this. And I said, you don't have the right address? I don't help with such things. And then he shouted more. You don't understand. I have a problem. I'm dying. I'm about to die. So I came to him. I didn't sit down, because I don't sit down next to people who scream at me. I leaned above him. That feels like a threat to everybody except for my husband. And I looked at his eyes and I said 3 sentences. You have a problem. Your problem is temporary and you're going to die. You're about to die. Only time in 40 years that I said such thing. Why did I do it? From the 3 sentences, which one was mine? You have a problem? He said. It's temporary. Why did I add it, say it? Because he's about to die, right? Why did I do it? What was his message that he gave me from the moment I opened the door? What was he saying to me with his behavior? He screamed at me. That he's not listening. When you shout, you don't listen. If you're afraid, if somebody is listening, you don't shout. Like children with a television. Turn down the volume of television. You have to shout for them to listen. So we shout when we feel that people don't hear us. The only way to show him fast that I'm listening is to repeat his sentences. I didn't want these sentences, but these were the sentences that were there, that he said. And I came and I said, you have a problem. Your problem is temporary. You're dying. And then he kept quiet. He silenced. The wife was silent. And then he said, maybe you want to sit? And then we started talking. Because I heard him. That's all he needed to hear, that I heard him. The other person, the other guy, about similar age, similar state, different illness though. I came to his home, also in an armchair. I entered the house to speak. I tried to reach the subject of loss, illness, death, and I couldn't. I'm quite good at reaching this subject, and I couldn't. He avoided it. He spoke with me about some kind of strange medicine made of the fin of a whale from Australia that will make him feel well. I couldn't, and it was 2 or 3 meetings that I couldn't come to the subject with him. And then his wife called and said he needs to cancel the next because he needs to go into hospital because he has pain for pain control. We missed out a week, and then I came. I was here with him again, and that was how the conversation went. I sat with him and I said, "Where were you last week?" I knew where, but I knew his wife's story, not his. So, where were you a week ago? And he said, don't ask, I had to go to hospital for this and that. And then I entered +2. And I asked, but where were you? It's 2 different questions. I was in the black place, and I said, well, now we can start talking. And I said, tell me about the black or dark place. And he said, it's forbidden, I can't speak about it. And I said, okay, if the door is closed, let's try the window. I said to him, if you could speak about the black place, where you'd be able to at the hospital, at home, in the garden? He said, only at home. And I said, and I said, well, if you would be able, have been able to speak about the dark black place, with whom? The doctor, the social worker, wife, with me? Only with my wife. And I said, well, we had 3 meetings, and you said you can't speak with your wife about anything. And he said, yeah, I can't. And I said, look, we're sitting here in your home. Can you speak with me? And this is a question I can't ask in the first meeting. And I said, he said yes. And I said, so let's speak about the black place. And he said, but it's forbidden. And I said, you know that counseling in Israel is big. There are many counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, all kinds of counselors. He looked at me, didn't understand where I was aiming at. And I said, but this whole thing is based upon one sentence. Do you want to hear it? Yeah? Okay. And I said, if we speak about your emotions, it makes them less strong. But I need your help for that. I can't do it alone. So he was quiet, and then he hardly somehow got up and went to the toilet, where I could see. He washed his face, brushed his teeth, washed his hands, combed his hair, came back and sat tense on his chair and said, okay. And he said, the black place, is it a place of there no or yes? So step by step, step by step, at the end of the counseling meeting, I said to him, look for a moment at the black place. He did. And I said, how does it look like? And he said, a bit less black. And that's how it went every meeting. So people can tell you how they're willing to speak with you or not. I want to speak about two more things. Okay, they're joking about how she'll know we're getting tired and getting up and leaving. And she said, don't move. Okay, are there questions so far? Rega, can you repeat what questions you asked him? I didn't quite understand the point, how it brought him to open up. I told him that there's a possibility to diminish the bad feelings and emotions if you speak about it, to reduce it. And then he wanted to speak because he was inside the bad, difficult emotions, and he wanted to reduce them. That's what I told him. It was possible, and it would lead to questions. If you're speaking with somebody who wants to help, how much of it comes from empathy, and how much of it is your training? You can always decide if you want to help or not. If you know the person and you love him, or if you don't love him, it works both. It's communication, it's given to a person who is in need for help. I didn't quite understand his question. It's like, let's say you see someone with punctured wheel, problem with the car, you can stop your car and help him or not. choose not to. Did it answer? I want to tell you about the way of grieving, because people don't really know it, and I think it's important to know it. This is the moment. You know, death might happen. It could be after some physical injury or in hospital, or when a soldier goes to a dangerous area, or somebody lost in Brazil forests, or the kidnapped people. Can be all kinds of things. And you know death might happen. Here you receive the news. The news brings the information. A person maybe died months before, but if you don't know about it, you're not mourning. So it's not necessarily connected to the actual moment of death, but the moment you receive this news, you enter a minefield. And every mine is flooded by emotions that you either express or not according to your culture or gender, etc. For example, the first birthday without them, the dead person, or your first birthday without holidays, Shabbat, songs on the radio, a mail that comes on his name, somebody calling out their name, his name, their name, books, food, smells, all kinds of minds. The size of the minefield is a year. You need to go through every day anew until you know the minds. It doesn't mean the second year is not difficult, but then if you know, you identify it, it's not a mine anymore. You kind of know how you react. The first time for each such a thing is most difficult during the first year, yeah. There are few minds, like places where the person is not, like landmarks. End of the army, or births or weddings, bar mitzvah, and the person is not there. Where the person was supposed to be, but is not. So it's not in the first year, it's just this is the place where he was killed or died. On 7th October there were those who were killed, and it took weeks or months until they were identified and the families were notified. Usually, soon after the death, there's the funeral, and then the formal time of mourning, and then 7, and then 30 days. 60 days passed, 90 days passed, average for expected death, but for sure for sudden death it takes 90 days plus minus 10, 5 days, so between 80 to 100 days to understand that somebody died. You can repeat the whole story about their death, but it's from your head, not from your heart. It takes about 3 months until until you grasp it, understand what really happened. Takes time. These 3 months, you don't know what it happened, and what happens in these 3 months. It's the shock, being shaken, and reorganization without the person who died. So it takes about 90 days. And what happens during these 90 days? You are shocked, you are reorganizing. Every person has roles in his family. If a person is gone, these roles, somebody needs to do them. And you don't discover all they were doing at once. If the person who was died always fixed the toilet until the toilet is stuck, is a problem, you don't remember that they did it, for example. What else happens during this period of time? Usually, receiving the news is what hits you worse. You can be in the hospital, somebody dying, the whole family around the bed, and she dies, the machine stops beeping, and still there's silence until somebody says something. They say, that's it, it's over, and then the evel, the grief burst out. So we receive the news, the announcement. Where does it hit us? In the head, in the heart. Words in our ears. Hearing, we hear it. So if I come to somebody and hit them with my fist in the stomach, the first reaction would be to protect the area that I hit, so not to be hit again there. So the area that received the blow is the hearing, the ears. Therefore, for 3 months about, there's no perception of more information in the hearing, especially at the beginning. So if somebody says to somebody, you have cancer, and then starts telling them about treatment, the person doesn't hear it. So, and then there are two mistakes. The counselor or doctor thinks he gave the information, but they didn't really listen. And they didn't really hear it. Because you can't take in more information. Because I protect my ears. I don't listen anymore, I don't hear it anymore. During this time, information that is usually available here in the front is in the back of the head. We see there are many accidents during these 3 months. Could be I cut my finger while cutting the salad, or slipping in the staircase and falling. The time of response is slower. So there are many road accidents for people who are in grief in the first 3 months. So what I tell people during this period of time, Don't drive when if you didn't sleep less than 6 hours. Don't drive if you even had very little alcohol. Drive when you must. Something else that happens here. Much talk about body, soul, but there's no such a thing. Body and soul are separate only in death. They're not separate here. Body and soul are one thing. Anything that hurts the soul hurts the body. Anything that hurts the body hurts the soul. And what do we see in these 3 months? Can't sleep. Extremes. You eat much or you can't eat at all. Constipation or diarrhea. Talking too much or not talking at all. Extremities. And there's part in the body, and I ask where it is, that carries the grieving. Usually it's here or here or here in the meridians, but sometimes it's not. There was I had a woman after losing her loss of a baby, embryo, and she said my whole pain and grief is in my right ear. Why? I heard not embryo, baby. I used to hold her this way, and the baby would kind of make noises in my ear. So why do I ask questions? Because I want to give a stage for her to tell me what she's feeling, and that there's nothing there that she cannot tell me. What else can happen here? There's a phenomenon. I can see or hear or smell or feel my dead person. I'm not sure what it is, but I know that more than a third of the people experience it. If you don't know it's normal, it can be scary. Did I lose my mind? Am I going crazy? Demons. Maybe he wants something from me from the other side. All kinds of things like this enter the head. But if you know it's normal, it's like oxygen. It's great. It's a relief. It all depends upon knowing it's normal or not. No, it's normal or common. So what's the problem with it? That grieving begins actually here at 90 and not at the moment you was notified. Well, you can't begin grieving if you don't know they're dead. But now in Israel, grief is heavier than when it happened in the 7th October. Then it was such a shock. But now it's really heavy because 3 months passed and they didn't stop killing. People are still killed. It's ongoing. But grief is beginning now. If you have very good friends, support group, support goes on until the end of 30, and then everybody goes back to their life, forget about you, and you're alone and lonely. And this is one of the roles, importance of the role stage, given stage. If somebody lost, let's say the first holiday, call the person and tell them, yeah, it must be difficult for you now. You're sitting alone. Us helping for 30 days and being there and then disappearing, that's not it. Another problem, children under 16 who are mourning, generally speaking, if they lose a family member, they need to mourn again as adults, grown-ups, because they didn't quite understand it. Not that anybody understands it, but it comes back to them, and it comes back detached from all the chronology of grieving, and they don't understand what it is. How long? Normal grieving between 1 to 5 years. That's normal. It takes. It doesn't mean that you're grieving all the time. Grief is a way. It's not a journey. It's not a place where you stay. You walk through it. There's a rumor that death of a son or daughter, you never stop grieving, and it's not true. It's a lie. You can complete every grief. The grief is not the person you lost. Grief is 100% not the person you lost, because it came after he disappeared. You don't need to hold it. You can let it go, but people are afraid to let go because they're afraid of losing something else that is his. So people do all kinds of things, like suddenly the friends of the son come all the time, and suddenly you love your friend, his friends who you didn't like when he was alive, or his clothes smelly with holes. You hold on to it because it kind of preserves. People think it preserves him a little bit more, but no, it preserves the grief, and that's not something you want to. As we see often in Israel, projects very early doing it, projects to commemorate the dead person. In Hebrew, it's Hanzacha, and it's based upon the word Netzach, eternity, not to forget the person. So some people gain from it, some don't. One of the messages I want to convey is that it can't be the center of your life, because you also are mortal. Your life has meaning over it. Trying to remember the memory of the person through something. For example, every building almost in Israel or conference are after the name of somebody. Somebody brought the beer with the name of his people give money to a center for lone soldiers, and then it's done under the name of their soldier who was killed. All kinds of ways, and personal ways too. Now they're opening a synagogue in Be'eri, because מה? A person rescued more than 100 people from Be'eri, and he was murdered, and then they write in a Torah book. I don't understand, sorry. Commemoration projects. I think she's speaking about the initiative of the religious people. Okay, never mind. Sorry. But commemoration, this kind of way, shouldn't be the purpose of your life. Ten minutes break. And then we'll have half an hour about saying goodbye. סליחה, לין? אנחנו לא שומעים את השאלות, אז תחזרו אליהם בבקשה. What are signs of grief and how is it defined and how do you define it came to its end? Well, it's hard to define, very much so. But when you think about a person who's gone and you think about them as a good memory and a smile, it's usually coming to the end of the grief process. The way I describe it, and it's not that clear, but that's how I describe it. In grief, in Evel, there's no sun. Even if you live in Israel, no sun, no color, everything is gray. And you come out of it, the sun is coming back, joy is coming back, color is coming back. Joy goes away nationally. You feel grief now everywhere. The grayness, no color, you feel sadness, missing, longings, disappointment from government, army, this, that, you can list. But all these things, the gray, that's Evel, that's the grief. And what happens when somebody dies to us? We hold on the grief like a large ball because we're afraid. Well, there's no way around it. You must grieve, and you hold it. And our dad is here. We can't see him because the ball is so large. And after a while of grieving, you start being able to move your arms, and the ball falls, and you see him again. And you receive him back somehow, not physically. Once you stop grieving, grief becomes a block between you and the person. At the beginning, it must be there, but for a while, after a while, it's possible to finish it. But because it's a year to 5, it might become a habit, and you need to break the habit. So these things, it's very difficult to explain, but we also need to look at what we gained from that person and see the gain from their life. Either an embryo that gave you feeling of life and fertility and excitement that it was happening, or if it was a great person who, I can say in our case, when I married, I didn't want children. Then I met Zohar, our first son. He was 6 years old when I met Asaf's son, and knowing him made me want children, because I thought, it's not bad, and that's why I have more children. This is a great gain. So there are other things that can be benefits of or advantages of the relationships I had with whoever. So when we begin seeing these things, you start coming out of the gray. Does it answer? I want to give you the best tool I have. It's from this book. It's in English. She said the name. The 5 things. Five sentences, but it's not really 5 sentences. Explain. First, forgive me. What about? What for? It's a mold for saying goodbye. There are 2 types usually of death: sudden, without knowing about it before, and the slow. Sudden and slow. Each have advantages and disadvantages. What is the advantage of a sudden death? Less suffering. Disadvantage? No saying goodbye. Parting. So advantage of the slow death is there's time. But if you don't need use the time, there's no advantage. Forgiveness has 2 parts, plus and minus. Forgiveness, I need to ask for things that maybe hurt my dear one who died to me. And the minus is for things I need to ask forgiveness because I didn't do these things, and if I would have done them, it hurt him because I didn't do them. Forgive me for stealing your bicycle when we were kids, and also forgive me that I never told you I love you. These things don't belong to... I don't understand. The meaning? We're talking only about hurting, and we think זה קצת לא ברור. טוב, לא יודעת. I don't know what she said, sorry. Forgiveness is very costly. It's not cheap. You can't turn it cheap. Forgive me for everything I did that hurt you. No. It needs to be a thing by thing. Particular. Forgive me, let's say, a person who lost his leg. Forgive me for that I never appreciated you. I wish a woman who... I don't understand, I'm sorry. Okay, it was examples for forgive me, let's say loss of an embryo, sorry that I drank wine. Maybe it led to it. Maybe she meant miscarriage. I don't know. And this is not blames, it's asking forgiveness. Sorry, saying sorry. The second is I forgive you. I thought about it recently and in another Kayla, and she said what somebody said, I can't forgive my dead brother who died because he didn't do anything bad. And I asked her, did you really know him? Everybody does bad things every once in a while. If you have a serious relationship with somebody more than 2 weeks, you already made mistakes. So let us not have illusions. We all make mistakes and do things wrong. I forgive you. She said he never did something bad. And so Lynn asked him, well, didn't it hurt you that he died? Then he did something to, and she said yes. And so Lynn said, well, he hurt you, even if he didn't mean to hurt you. Yeah, so it needs forgiveness, forgiving. 3, third sentence. I love you. The forgiveness things belong to a decision. You decide to forgive. The option to forgive is to carry. There's no other option. You either carry or you forgive. It has nothing to do with the other person. It belongs to you. If you don't want to carry it, you need to forgive. As I speak with people who are not believers, they can say, I'm prepared to carry it. But you have no choice. You don't forgive, you don't receive forgiveness, so let's not have it. We need to forgive even horrible things. Somebody asked me once, when I gave a lecture to believers, she said, I know we need to forgive, but it's so difficult for me to forgive the Hamas for what they did. And I told her, look, in times I'm closest to God, I remember that there's only one enemy of our souls, it's the devil, and he's their enemy too. And he uses them too, although they don't know it. In times I'm not that close to God, I want to turn Gaza into a parking lot. So that's how his third sentence then is, I love you, because people die. It doesn't make them nicer. It's not always nice. I don't always love the one who died. So I'm not really accepting this third. You can write, I tried to love you, or I wanted to love you. People came to me after somebody who abused them died. They abused them all life. They can't carry anymore. They need to forgive from the head. I don't want to have anything with you. I don't want to remember you. I decide to forgive you in order not to carry it. That's it. And it works. But I love you. Well, it needs to be the truth. Otherwise it doesn't work without the truth. If you do love the person that you want to say goodbye to, or you don't want but you must because they died, you can say not only I love you, but why? What do I love in you? 4, is thank you. Thank you for what you received. It's not a public words said by the grave. You only say thank you for what you have received. And peace or shalom. Oh, it's saying goodbye. It's the end. Saying goodbye. Something going on with the children. Looking for chalk. Saying goodbye. Can you say we'll meet somewhere again? It's great. If you can't say it, you say what you can. If you read the newspaper or listen to bereaved parents and widows and brothers and sisters, you always hear them saying, I just wanted to say to them these sentences. These are sentences of saying goodbye. You can see how powerful it is. I ask you now. You need a new paper. And now you're about to write a letter to somebody, yours, who died already. It starts the name of the dear one. So many years we haven't spoken, and I have few things to say to you. And then you begin to write. Well, the whole letter, you need to refer to these things. No excuses about the forgiveness, or you only ask forgiveness. You'll have 10 minutes. It's not unfair, I know. לין, את יכולה לחזור על זה? You're about to write a letter. Going to write a letter to somebody, yours, personal, who died to you. You open it with a name, his name, her name. We haven't spoken for such and such time, and I have a few things to tell you. And then you write what you wish, but you include these 5 things. you'll see how powerful it is. It's very helpful. Write quietly, 10 minutes, and after this I will not ask you for the papers. Each one write your own way, your own language. And I won't put to shame anybody. You won't have to share it. Is it clear? Don't speak during this time, please, at all. You can raise your hand if you need more tissues. So start now. 10 minutes. You can continue writing at home. It's not fair giving you 10 minutes only. Usually I give it 5 counseling meetings, sessions, and I give them 1 commission each time. But it opens things a bit, and you can see that it's helpful or it will help. It opens up something. It opens up the grief, but it cleans the table. I can say that the 4 things I do often with my family and my children and with poor Asaf because I want to clean the table, because who knows when we die? No one knows, so it better things be worked out as much as possible. But it has 2 parts. You wrote. The writing is like a contract, but there needs to be a proclamation. You need to read it out loud, not here. It doesn't need to be in front of somebody. If it's very honest, very tough, it doesn't need to be in front of somebody on the beach, at home, by the grave, a picture of the person. But it's important to proclaim it in words, because we have a God, the Creator, who makes things, creates things through words. So we need to say things out loud. And we're always in front of God. Doesn't need to be in front of a person. And then you need to decide what to do with this letter. If it's very honest, and you can be afraid that if you die, when you die, somebody else will read it and you don't want it, you do something with it. Some people burn it and put the ashes on the grave or in the forest, or some people take a tree that reminds them of the person and plant it with the paper in the soil. Some people make paper mache from it and create something. Somebody from Sderot came to me, and I made a mistake. I made a mistake saying you can send it up in the air with a helium balloon, and she said, not where I live. You can keep it if you want. Up to you, but somebody else might find it at some point and read it. Questions? It works also for other things except for death. Its origin was a conversation with somebody alive. The 4 first things can be done with somebody who's very old, you're worried, or it can be done as a conversation and who's still alive. But don't do it with somebody who abused you. Don't give them another opportunity to abuse you. But if it's a conversation with somebody else, There were people I had who wrote this to a leg that was amputated, looking for the Hebrew word. Said goodbye to their leg they lost. Some people wrote it in my presence to their biological parents. They were adopted, but they wrote it to their biological parents. It doesn't need to be somebody who understands what you're writing, because you write your own heart's music. It's your own. It's for you. I don't know what the question is. How often in life, in the stages of a child growing up, it needs to be done, can be done. When you see there's some need and you don't really understand what, ask questions with children, but also with other people. But with children, your language needs to be with question marks and not a full stop. You're not telling him what to do, you're asking him about things he's doing. What is death? Why do people die? Where are people? They ask, where is grandpa? I guess the question was about the child who lost somebody. It's a different lecture about children. But if you don't include children in the process of grief, they need to do it on their own, and then they invent all kinds of things, and it's not good. They want to be part of family within, not alone in it. Does it answer? Can do it a few times, yes. We have many people who die to us, we lose in life, and we can do it again. And you see how powerful this exercise is. It's really helpful. And it's not speaking to the dead, that's not it. It's saying things we couldn't say. When I'm speaking to you, I know what I mean, but I don't know what you are perceiving from it and understanding. It's always like that in communication. In my youth, when I was young, I did pantomime. Well, short things, like creation and I'm God, things like that. I did pantomime, and 5 years later, the same person saw the same piece. It's 3.5 minutes of creation of the world, and he said, but in the last time you did all the animals. And I said, what animals? I made 2 balls, that's all. But he filled in and asked me why didn't I do it this time. But I didn't change, so we fill in and add our stuff. And another story that's irrelevant, but funny, about me and my sister. The first time I did mime in front of audience, 220 people. It was the first time I went on stage with a white painted face with a makeup, and we both had brown hair back then, long, and ponytail. Half a minute before I go to stage, she's sitting next to me and she says, what if nobody will understand what you're doing? And I said, I'll tell them it was you. Question about pets, animals. Is there something in the Bible? And how is the process of grieving over losing animals? So the Bible says that God created all animals. If there's anything else, ask the experts. I don't know. The letter, yes, you can write to a pet, to an animal, but I really don't know to answer. Ask Yossi. There was someone, a soldier who... לין, תסבירי שזה עם כלבים, בבקשה. A unit, somebody worked in a unit using dogs, a soldier, and they're really like combat dogs. And he came to Lynn after the army, and he was mourning, grieving very much for losing the animal, the dog. He had to leave there. He had an album, thick, and he showed me pictures of the dog. The dog looked the same to me in all pictures, but for him, it was a real combat expert, fighting terrorists, and the dog. And he had a 3-year-old daughter, and her album was small and thick. So he really mourned his dog. This whole letter and conversation is not between me and somebody who's not there or speaking to the dead, but it's between me and me, my soul. Yes, you can write even to dog. And we don't give it to the person anyway. They're not here anymore. So it's you can do it this way, but in the book of which book is it? Ecclesiastes. Just quoting Ecclesiastes. And Yossi suggests we leave it now for now. It's not the point. Question. We don't know if a person is dead or alive. We don't know about him anything for years. It's a question. She's repeating the question. If we don't know if the person is dead or alive, and we don't know what to do with it, you can, the first 4 things, you can write also to people who are alive. It's not a problem. The toughest time psychologically is the unknown, always. So the whole situation with the kidnapped is shocking. It's terrible. It's so difficult, the difficulty. And all those who were not identified yet because of the state of the bodies, it's very difficult. But the first 4 can write anyway, and it's a lot, because its heart is the forgiveness, the matter of forgiveness. Music, praise. How much does music or praise influence when you have loss? The answer of Lynn depends upon you, but it can be wonderful. It can exalt, it can lift you up and also reduce the anger towards God, because there is anger in grief. Because if God, the omni powerful, there are questions and there's anger. Many people in the body of Messiah who feel you must not be angry with God, it's forbidden. But I disagree. I think my God is great enough to be able to. I think He invented anger. And when we're angry at Him, I can say from my personal experience, we need to apologize, ask His forgiveness, but we can after this. But He understands, like an angry little child who doesn't understand. God understands us because it's so difficult for us to understand Him. I know you only from as Shachar's mother. I don't know you. If I read a book, I first read about the author. Can you tell us a little bit about you and who you are? It can understand a little bit more. We sat here a few hours and I actually don't know who you are. It's deeper if I know who is speaking and what you went through. It helps me. I'm Thanatologist by my profession. Thanatos, the Greek god of death. I have second degree in it. I counsel people who are reaching death. I learned it when I was in my 20s, and then I came to Israel. And I work in, especially with people in the medical professions and lectures, and people die in their families. In 1993, our first son was killed in Lebanon. He was 21 years old. I have 3 left. But it wasn't the reason I was already in this subject. He even asked me once to come and teach in his unit. I went a few units of my children in the army to teach about it. This is my husband. She told you about me, so I can tell you about her anger about death. After our son was killed, she stood in the living room, days, hands up, angry with God. One day, our young daughter, Hila, came home. She was 6 years old or so. She saw Mom with her hands, understood she was angry with God. She said, Ima, you must not. It's forbidden. She was afraid that lightning will come and kill Mom. And Lynn stood down. Lynn said, everything's okay. He's great enough. He can carry my anger. He's the one who invented anger. And this story is also in some film they made about a few families. We are one of them, and it was on TV. The army takes every year officers from the army to Poland, and with some parents, bereaved parents, and I joined it once, and on the television on the way to the camps in Poland, they told this story, and there was a rabbi in the bus, of the delegation, and he came to me and said, Asaf, I wish I had the faith your wife has. Mm. More questions? Everybody is tired. It's best to say at the beginning some words and deeper about who you are. It's helpful. And Lynn says it's everybody knows in the professional world, but no one knows my personal story. This is not my visit card. And Nelly says it helps me to know. I want to bless you. May you live every day of your life, I guess, to the fullest. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. We have it recorded now. If somebody wants the link to this lecture, if you're not from the congregation, ask those who invited you. I hope we'll have it soon also in English and Russian to edit. Okay. May we live every day of our life. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.